Hello and welcome to Chasing Inspiration with B. Dave Walters. And again, I start out with one of my favorite shirts here in the world, We Fight in the Shade, which I will explain momentarily. But before I get too far into this, again, this is our show where we talk more about the motivational stuff, inspirational stuff, trying to stay sane in a crazy world. And I remind you that all my patrons of any tier get all of my videos 3 days early. Along with all sorts of other splendiferousness. Maybe check out patreon.com/BDaveWalters. Maybe. Toss a coin to your B-Dave. So, that being said, the reason why I like this shirt so much, this Fight in the Shade, is if you're familiar with the movie 300 and the Battle of Thermopylae, that really happened. Well, obviously significant liberties were taken with it, but roughly 1,100 men stared down probably around 200,000 men and held them there. And through a series of events and seeming coincidences, Greece defeated Persia, and the Western world is what it is right now versus whatever it would have been had the Persians won. Which again, people can debate that till the end of time. But at one point, the Persian emissary did say to the Spartans that it's the 1,000 nations of the Persian Empire descend on you, our arrows will blot out the sun. And one of the Greeks, Spartans, replied, so much better, we will fight in the shade, essentially. Which is incredible. It's incredible. And it's just one of the best examples in history of just relentless determination and just not giving up, which is part of what I want to talk about tonight. So if you know me, sort of a busy dude. I do something 7 days a week. On Sundays, as of the time of this recording, we just finished Long Beach by Night, but I'm still doing the one-on-one shots live there, which is like my interview / gaming show. Then usually Sundays, I record a lot of content. Spoiler alert, I'm recording this for you on a Sunday. You might see it on Sunday, you might see it at another time. Even I don't know. But if you are a patron, you could have seen it 3 days sooner. On Mondays, I have my writers meeting for Werewolf. I'm on the writing team for Werewolf. And then I run 2 games for my patrons for Patreon. Then Tuesdays, currently I run 1 game at noon for my patrons. Sometimes I run games at 11 p.m. For my international people, so we don't even start till 11. On Tuesdays, I have Silver and Steel at 6 o'clock there for twitch.tv/D&D Beyond. Wednesday, I am off, but by being off, that means literally everything I didn't do the other days that I was busy gets dumped into Wednesday, so that ends up being my busiest day, even though it's off. Then Thursdays, I'm soon going to have a D&D stream in the morning that I'm a part of. Then in the afternoons at 3 Pacific is Roll in the Family, The Slumbering Forest. Then at 5 is a Dark and Wish. Usually I'm in chat. When we're filming Dark and Wish, we pre-tape Thursday night, so that's usually about 6:30. Then Fridays, 1 game at noon. Then we do Anarchs of New York from 5 to 8, and then LA by Night is on at 8, although right now it is also over. Saturday, run 2 Patreon games, and I also work out 6 days a week, and some other things that I didn't mention. So all of that is to say, I kind of do stuff. And somebody was asking me recently, basically they were asking me kind of 2 things. 1, how it is that I do it, and 2, they themselves are pushing into the streaming space. They've done some great things in the streaming space. They are looking to go into business for themselves, basically doing something very similar what they do for their current employer, but for themselves. And this guy just basically asked me what I thought he should do, and he was kind of grappling a little bit with anxiety, with some fear, with, can I do it? Am I deluding myself? Am I fooling myself? And so as I was sitting down to write to him, basically my advice I decided that I actually would rather take the time to record this because maybe you're going through something similar in your own mind and in your own head, and I can just kind of share this with you. So, my first point, remember when last we talked on the last one of these Chasing Inspirations, I said, and I stand by the fact that, again, although right now there are some people that are suffering tremendously in the COVID crisis, and suffering personally, economically, health-wise, they themselves might have been afflicted with the illness, lost someone who was affected by the illness, and I do not mean to make light of that. And also the fact that there's just a crushing difficulty, an existential crisis that kind of comes along with this quarantine, with this separation. Again, remember, the worst thing we do to the worst prisoners we have in society is solitary confinement. The worst punishment we can inflict on another human being is being by themselves. So, we're getting to 40 days plus for a lot of us around here. And so the fact that you might be feeling some stress and some difficulty during that time is innately valid. How you feel is innately valid. This is uncharted territory in human history. Even, of course, there's been prior plagues, there's been prior quarantines, but the scale of this and the normal interconnectedness that we're experiencing, nobody's ever been through this before. Nobody knows what is appropriate. Nobody knows how you should feel. So in that, how you feel is fine. So please do not construe anything that I'm about to say as a guilt trip. You do you, man. And if you can't put on pants today, don't. If you don't want to brush your teeth today, don't. If you want to eat ice cream for dinner, have at it. Do whatever you got to do to get through this. Just do kind of file away in the back of your noodle what I'm about to say to you, and that is this. It will never be any easier than it is right now, though. Never. Never any easier than it is right now. Because although you may be experiencing some economic difficulties along with this, this is the most free time we have had as individuals and, quite frankly, as a society, and any time that I can remember. And soon life is going to start again, and there will be work trips again, and traveling, going to shows, conventions, rush hour traffic, sitting in the office, working 60 hours a week. On a certain level, I stand by this, we will miss the simplicity of this time. It'll be good to hang out with your friends. It'll be good to go have dinners. It'll be good to go to the movies. And believe me, I'm the super extroverted person. I miss being out amongst crowds of people. I draw power from that. But still, mark my words, there will be a part of you that remembers what it was like when you didn't have to do anything but get up and walk right over to the couch and go to work and do what you were going to do and wear whatever you want. And then when you were done, turn it off and be right there. So, as I said before, not to completely repeat the last video, that thing you've been thinking about doing, that thing you wanted to write, that class you wanted to take, that online tutorial, do it, and do it now. Because even in the midst of the existential crisis that we're experiencing, that might actually help you kind of dig yourself out of it a little bit. Having something to work towards, something to aspire to, something to hope for is vital to being able to help keep your mental game together and help combat the existential dread of not knowing what's going to happen, of a literal apocalypse happening, of isolation, of seclusion, and everything else. So, do the thing. This now is coming under the assumption that you have decided that yes, I will indeed do the thing. I will listen to B Dave, and I will hearken unto him and go forth to do the thing. It's going to be difficult and it's going to take time. There's two things, and only two things, because again, I'm a believer. I had this talk with Jim Zub when he was on with me with one-on-one shots. I'm a believer. I'm that guy, right? I'm a religious guy. I'm a spiritual guy. I believe in Bigfoot and the Loch Ness monsters, ghosts, UFOs, all of that. I live in a world of possibility where it is difficult to know what we don't know. It is difficult to know what is and isn't possible. Again, is every single grainy photograph some unknown cryptid or monster? No, probably not. Is every weird light you see in the sky a ship from another planet? Nope, probably not. 9 times out of 10, 95.5% of the time, there really is a logical explanation, but sometimes there's not, and that's where things get crazy, and quite frankly, that's what makes life worth living. But two things I will tell you for certain, in the midst of me just telling you all the things I believe in, I am 100% sure do not exist, are absolutely myths. The self-made man or woman, the overnight success. Nobody does it all on their own. Literally no one. Everyone has help. Even if the help you had was the parents that diapered your bottom and put food on the table and made sure you went to school to learn what you needed. But usually far, far, far more than that. Literally no one does it on their own. Pulling yourself up by your bootstraps is a myth. It does not exist. Overnight success. Everything takes time. Anyone you think is an overnight success that just hit it out of nowhere, I guarantee you has been working at it for years. Even take the example of Justin Bieber. Whatever you think of the kid, he made something of himself. And he was discovered at 13 as this prodigy. What a lot of people don't realize is he'd been singing and playing instruments literally every day since he was 3. He was 10 years in by the time he got chosen. That is true of literally everyone. So when you see people that it seemed like come out of nowhere, it was anything but. Even I myself, I made pretty quick strides in the streaming community, but I'd been working behind the scenes in marketing and making videos and content creation. I hosted a radio show for 7 years. I'd been at it a very long time, honing the craft of writing and all of those skills and being able to talk on camera. Yeah, I guess I was lucky in the sense that I was somewhat naturally, I just like to talk, but for the most part, I have been putting in the groundwork for a very, very long time. So things that seem sudden weren't. And I can also tell you, when I set foot in Geek and Sundry for the first time, when I literally crossed the threshold into that building, I knew exactly what I was trying to accomplish. I had a specific plan right then, and I'll even tell you what it was. I knew I was going to establish myself as someone that was going to be easy to work with, easy to get along with. I was always going to show up on time. I was always going to do my best, and I was going to always try and just make everybody enjoy working with me and know that I was going to try and deliver the best product every single time. And I did that, and quite frankly, it worked. Because it's weird when people realize that you're a solid person that is fun to be around, your phone starts ringing for stuff. Who'd have thought, right? But the idea behind this and what I'm trying to share with you is the idea that have the plan of what even is it that you were trying to do. Now, I'll give you some full disclosure here. I'll give you a little peek behind the curtain of what it's like in B. Dave land over here after I sip some water. When I put my Patreon together, again, patreon.com/BDaveWalters. I set it up expressly as the one place where I could kind of show every aspect of who I am, because I'm into a lot of things, and quite frankly, I've accomplished a lot of stuff. And one of the things about marketing is, for the most part, is you always want to find your niche. You want to find your thing, the thing that you're known for, that is like, oh, that's that girl. She does that. I hate that. I hate that because I can do a lot of stuff. I like a lot of stuff. I'm just as comfortable talking about the UFC and martial arts and getting in and fighting, actually fighting myself, talking about fighting and nerding out about that, as I am talking about comic books, as I am talking about writing and storytelling, as I am talking about Star Wars. As I'm talking about religion. These are things I enjoy. And so I set my Patreon up as a way for me to be like, here's the one place I can let my freak flag fly and nobody can tell me otherwise, right? However, unfortunately, and as much as I'm enjoying that and don't intend to change, as I have made progress in a lot of different areas, as I've made progress in streaming and in writing and in screenwriting and in entertainment, now I'm starting to catch people's attention. I do have representation, I do have management and things like that. And there's more and more and more pressure that it's like, well, but now you have to specialize. And I'm really like, I don't wanna, and I still know exactly what it is that I'm trying to accomplish, but I'm at a place that I'm having to still redefine my strategy and my tactics of how I'm going to get there. Because up until now, the plan has worked, but the plan has only worked because of two little details. I had a plan and I worked it. So because I had a plan and have worked it, it's weird. There's results. And sometimes the plan changes along the way. The plan has to change along the way. Things are going to happen that you don't expect, that you have to adjust, and just adjust your sails and just kind of roll with it, to fight in the shade, as it were, when things become difficult, because they will be difficult. Right now, again, I have my Kickstarter is going for the graphic novel that I co-created, Electropunk, with Jeff Wamister, and it's doing well. It's doing strong. I think it will fund, but it is not a runaway like crazy success. And of course, I'd hoped it would be, as everyone always hopes anything they will do is a crazy runaway success. But you can't control that. You can't control how your things will be received. The only thing you can control is putting your best foot forward and trying your hardest. And try to be objective about that. You know, it is easy to fall into this trap of beating ourselves up and I'm not good enough and all of this stuff. Nah, man, you know, forget all that. Just, you ask yourself one simple question. Did you do the best you could do? And I don't mean, you know, all of these like garbage if onlys, I should have this, I should have that. I mean, look, man, I judge myself according to, with the information I possess right then, did I make the right choice? You know, if I go to eat dinner tonight and it turns out I bite into a hamburger and it's poisoned and I drop dead, be like, oh, I shouldn't have eaten the hamburger. I shouldn't have eaten the hamburger. I'm like, oh, man, I didn't know it was a hamburger. You know, if somebody's like, hey, BT Dubs, beef is poisonous now, maybe don't, and then I bite into the cheeseburger, that's something to regret. That is something to feel bad about. That is something to, you know, wistfully anguish over. But if I did the best that I could do with the facts that were in evidence, that's all I care about. So, again, to the specific instance of my bro that is trying to break into streaming, break into freelancing, things of that nature. Let me break this down kind of into pieces. And everything that I've said up until now still directly applies. You can't control how people will react to what you do. You can't make them love anything that you love. The only thing you can do is make sure you love the thing you're making, because that's what will resonate. That's what will come through. That's what people will sit up and pay attention to. When you try to have a cookie cutter thing that you decide in advance, you're like, what is the market looking for? You know, I mean, obviously you have to be aware of some things in the sense that you're like, I've got a bagpipe ska beat poetry show I want to put together. Is that ever going to be the biggest thing in the world? Probably not. Does it have to be the biggest thing in the world? Probably not. There's a concept known as 1,000 loyal fans. I was talking about it earlier in an interview. You could Google it, 1,000 loyal fans, where all the numbers are broken down. But basically it comes down to, you don't need millions of fans. You don't even need hundreds of thousands of fans. You need about 1,000 people that are going to buy anything you sell, more or less. If you have 1,000 people that will turn up for you, that's something you can build a career off of. And that's it, and it's done. And I can tell you, I'm kind of living that now. Between Patreon and some of the streams and some other opportunities, you know, that's how I make my daily bread. And it took me, I guess, 3 years to make it happen, but I mean, the whole thing was freaking improbable the entire time, so I'm amazed that I've made it here. And that's why people always ask, like, why do I work so hard? Why do I create so much content? Why am I always pushing so hard? Because I realize I'm not even supposed to be here. It's only because I've hustled so hard that I've made it this far, and whatever lay beyond this will only show up if I'm constantly applying myself. But as exhausting as that whole schedule might sound, the reason why I can do it and enjoy it is because I enjoy it. It is not hard to play Patreon games. It is mentally taxing. It's energy, it's time, of course. But I mean, it's like I'm playing Vampire with people I like, you know, like nobody feels bad for me. You know, streaming is fun. Making these videos and talking to you is fun. There is nothing in my life currently that when I see it come up on my schedule, I'm like, I have to do this. One thing that I am not going to name right now is starting to turn a little stale, and I think I'm about to have to bow out of doing it. which I didn't want to do. For the most part, I try to never let anyone down or pass up on an opportunity. If I'm physically capable of doing a thing, I tend to do that thing. But I might have to hang my hat up on one thing. But otherwise, I'm blessed that the 168 hours a week that God has graced me with, I'm happy to spend them how I spend them. And that actually reminds me of one other thing. There's only one thing that everything in the entire world is equal in, and that's time. We all got 168 hours in a week. We're not all tall, short, fat, skinny, big, small, black, white, Asian, Latino, we're rich, poor, smart, dumb, whatever. We're a spectrum, but we all got 168 hours in a week. That is your bank of resources to spend how you're going to spend them. So to get down to this on a tactical level, figure out, commit to yourself. Have integrity. Integrity means keeping the promises you make to yourself. Decide. How many hours of a week are you going to put into doing this thing? Again, you're never going to have more time than you got right now. Never ever. Right? I mean, you could win the lottery tomorrow, I guess, but again, that is possible. It is improbable. Otherwise, you're probably going to have to be working. And even if you're not working because you have to, you're going to be working because you want to. Again, I'm kind of at capacity doing things I like to do. If I'm looking now for room to be able to add on more things, it's kind of tough, honestly, right now. Apparently, 168 hours is in fact the hard limit, you know? But with that comes, there is time for everything, though. There may not be time every day, there may not even be time every week, but there's time over the course of a month, maybe time over the course of a few months for you to earmark to put it out there. You know, if you're thinking about streaming, then you start streaming and start looking at it critically and asking what can you do better to continue honing your craft and improving. But consistency is the most important thing, because consistency is what allows you to build a following and build an audience and have people that want to come with you on these journeys and start to care about you. That's how you get your 1,000 loyal fans, is through consistency. That you and the things you do become a habit. That is how you become consistent, how you build these up, again, with consistency. Now, when you're talking about being in business for yourself, which is related to streaming, because I invite you to look at yourself as a content producer, as a solopreneur. But even if you're doing something theoretical, like let's say you want to become a marketing consultant or something that I myself know a little bit about. The number one product that you have to market is you, by the way. And also, I apologize. I realize that I've just sort of idly been like cracking my fingers here, and it's right next to the mic. So those of you that are listening to this and not watching might be getting deafened every once in a while, and I'm really sorry. I wasn't thinking about that. That is one of those things that as you go back and watch, maybe be mindful of your habits and change them, you know? So, sorry, audio listeners. I would invite you, even if you have a straight up 9-to-5 job, if you go somewhere that you legit have to clock in, start thinking of yourself as an entrepreneur. Start thinking of yourself as a business owner. Start thinking of yourself as a consultant who is leasing your time to the business, because you will approach things differently. Just that mental switch. Even if you change absolutely nothing else, but you change that aspect of how you are looking at the service you provide, how you carry yourself, how you talk, how you negotiate, how you execute your craft will change. And I'm here to tell you, it's true. You are a consultant. That is leasing yourself. That is leasing your time. Again, your finite, very exhaustible resource and your expertise to your business. Because if you don't want to be treated like a cog in the wheel, you yourself cannot look at yourself like a cog in the wheel. If you don't want to feel like a drone and a worker bee, you cannot think of yourself as a drone and a worker bee. Remember, and this is true in every aspect of your life, no one is ever going to respect you more than you respect you. I'll go so far as to say no one's ever going to love you more than you are going to love you. And you can't love anyone else more than you love yourself. It is a hard limit. It is a break that is self-inflicted by your own mind. You yourself are the benchmark of esteem, okay? And if you don't love yourself, you can't allow that love to come in. If you don't respect yourself, you can't allow that respect to come in, because you will reject it. You will pshaw it. You will dismiss it. You will come up with every reason to not embrace it and let it inside and feel it. okay? Which is something you have to do. But ironically enough, while I'm telling you that you have to be capable of letting the warmth in, you have to be able to shut the haters out. Which is funny because most of us do the exact opposite. Most of us pshaw and dismiss the happy words, ignore the good things, the warm fuzzies, and pay extreme attention to every negative comment that comes through Twitch or on a YouTube video, or is seeing ourselves in the mirror and maybe realizing we're a little squishier than we used to be. Believe me, I've been working out like a crazy person in quarantine, and I'm still doughier than I would like, because sometimes, even though I've been doing okay with the diet, there's still times I sneak in there to the gummy bears in the nighttime, and believe me, I can tell the difference. So, it's fine. You're still human. Just try your best, right? But be objective about those sorts of things. Try and be objective about your skills. Are you really good at social media marketing? Do you have some successes that you can point towards? Are you very good at managing a brand? Can you show that you have done it? And if you can't, the number one brand that you need to be promoting is you. There's a reason why I'm B. Dave Walters everywhere for all the things that I do. I thought at one point about splitting up, different branding for different things, for different channels, for different kinds of content. Nah, I might get there eventually, because remember before I was telling you about having to specialize in things like YouTube algorithms, value, that sort of thing. But the reason why I haven't, and I'll tell you tactically, because I don't approach, at this point, I don't even look at myself like a single content creator. I look at myself like a network. So just like lots of different things might come on NBC or CBS or on We, I generate lots of different kinds of content. And this is uncharted territory. It's the wild freaking West, man. Nobody can tell you how to do it or how it has to be done. The only thing you can do is look and see how it is being done or what has been done, what you can learn from, what you can improve upon, what pitfalls and mistakes you can avoid, and then hit it as hard as you can. That's the only thing you can do. So, I'm gonna start wrapping this up so I don't talk your ear off, or talk your ear off more, I suppose. But it's going to take time. It is going to take longer than you think. It is going to take more effort than you think it is going to take. And there will be long periods of time that you think nothing is happening. Just like that old parable of the bamboo growing. You'll plant it and you'll water it and you'll just think nothing, and then an eruption. I will tell you, some of you that have been with me a while, you might recall last October, everything bottomed out for me. I was staring down the barrel of losing everything, of eviction, and I had to turn to the community and ask for help. I had to do a GoFundMe because just the tide all went out at once. Despite my best efforts, everything just went out at once. It happens. I was very candid about what had happened, why things were the way they were. To my eternal gratitude, the community very much rallied and helped me, saved me, literally. And now the pendulum has swung so powerfully where I'm making more money than I've made really ever, honestly. And that's just 6 months later. But it is not so much that everything changed in 6 months. It's the seeds I was planting and the water that I was putting on them finally paid off, and things started to blossom and pay dividends. Quite frankly, the fact that there was a community that existed to help me was a dividend in and of itself. That's why I had already engendered enough goodwill with people that they were willing to come to my aid, which again, if you were one of those people, I deeply appreciate and will never forget. But understand, like for me, even that was a consequence of it, a cost, that in the midst of doing everything that on the surface you would have thought was fantastic and all this super fun stuff. And it was fun. It is fun, but it's work. And it will take time. I also would tell you that if you're looking to do these things, I highly recommend that to the best of your ability, you don't let go of one branch till you grab a hold of the next one. I don't think you should quit your job to go be a pro streamer or go in business for yourself. Sometimes circumstances might necessitate that. The job might leave you, not you leaving the job, in which case you got to do what you got to do. I went pro as a content creator because I still had a day job, and there was a round of company layoffs and the entire marketing department got laid off. And so while I was still streaming and working and doing stuff that you knew me for, I still had a day job at the time. And I was still looking for something else. And I did like the odd thing here and there, but just nothing ever really like clicked. And while I was looking for that thing, the streaming stuff started compounding, the writing thing started compounding, the screenplay gig started to compound. And I just sort of looked up, and it was like, oh, I don't have to go somewhere and clock in every day. I don't want to go somewhere and clock in every day. I don't really want to work for anyone that's not me. Now, to tell you the truth, again, y'all, I'm for sale. The right person comes and makes me the right offer tomorrow. I'm like, I'll see you 9 o'clock Monday morning, like, don't get it twisted. But I'm at a place right now that it's like I can kind of call my own shots, and that's a beautiful thing. And it is good to enjoy, and it is something that I want you to have for yourself. Not that everyone has to be an entrepreneur, absolutely not. You very much might find your place in some other form of service that society very much needs. One thing this pandemic has shown us is that there are no small jobs. We need literally everyone doing literally everything. But that being said, if you're thinking about trying something, do it. Do the thing. Do it. If you're thinking about streaming, stream. If you're thinking about going into business for yourself, do it. Try and hedge your bets to the best of your ability. If you have specific questions, ask me. I know a lot about it. I've been self-employed for many years. I've had my own business for over 20 now. I've been only self-employed for most of that time, although I definitely intermittently have taken a day job. There's literally no shame in that, doing whatever you got to do. I just thought of it as corporate sponsorship. Let somebody else pay me while I'm doing what I really want to do. No big deal, no problem at all. So if you've got a day job and you're still hustling hard to make this happen, yeah, don't feel bad about it. Stack chips, make money, save up so that you can make your dreams manifest into a reality. But I will just say this one thing and I will be done. Whatever it is that you're after, do something every single day. Every single day, do something that gets you closer. If it's send an email, if it's Google something, if it's spending 15 minutes writing that book, if it's spending a half hour doing those tutorials, something every single day, because it will add up. And the time is going to pass no matter what. The time is going to pass whether or not you make the most of it. Not just this time of quarantine, but whatever comes afterwards. If God is good enough to give us a lot of time afterwards. It is going to pass whether or not you make the most of it. So, resolve now, right now. You don't have to promise me, but promise you that you are going to plant your flag now in this moment and decide that this will be the crossroads moment, that you are going a new direction and you will never look back. Remember, integrity is keeping the promises you make to yourself. If you need some external force, you can promise me right now. I'm listening. Say out loud what it is that you're promising to do. Dope. I heard you. And also, you can message me on Twitter. My DMs are open, @BDaveWalters. Tell me what it is that you're trying to do. I will hold you accountable to your promise, and I will help you in any way that I can. In the meantime, you are great, and I love you, and we'll see you next time. Bye.